Life Stories presents another gripping tale of betrayal, redemption, and the unbreakable bond between siblings. Imagine dedicating years of your life to groundbreaking research, only to wake up one day and see your sister receiving awards for your work. Emma Donovan never expected the person who would betray her the most to be her own flesh and blood. But when the truth begins to unravel, justice finds its way in the most unexpected manner. Will family ties survive the storm of deception? Subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's journey and uncover the truth behind this incredible tale. I stared at my phone screen, my hands trembling as I reread the headline. Rachel Donovan wins prestigious Horizon Science Award for groundbreaking renewable energy research. The words blurred as my breath hitched in my throat. My sister had just won an award for my work, my research, my life's passion. I gripped the edge of my desk, my mind racing. How had she even? And then it hit me. My backup drive. The memory surfaced in sharp detail. The warm glow of candles at Dad's birthday dinner last month. Rachel laughing at some joke. Leaning in with feigned curiosity. I'd love to see what you've been working on, Emma, she had said. I'm so proud of you. I had believed her. The bile rose in my throat as I recalled how she had insisted on looking through my files that night. How she had marveled at my work while I explained my progress. It had felt like a rare, genuine moment between us, two sisters finally connecting over something real. But it wasn't real. It had been an act. She had stolen my research, passed it off as her own, and now the world was applauding her genius. The lab door swung open, and Olivia burst in, her face flushed. Emma, did you see the news? I forced myself to look at her, still gripping my desk. My voice barely rose above a whisper. She took my backup drive. Olivia's mouth fell open. Rachel? But how? Why? I laughed bitterly. She always had a way of getting what she wanted. Rachel was the golden child. The one with the dazzling smile and effortless charm. The one who had always been adored. While I was the quiet one in the background, scribbling in my notebooks, lost in equations and chemical formulas. She had never cared about science. She had barely scraped by in her chemistry classes at Columbia University. But now she was being hailed as a revolutionary thinker in renewable energy. My phone buzzed again. A message from Dad. Family dinner tonight to celebrate Rachel's award. Be there by 7. No excuses. No excuses. Of course. You have to tell them, Olivia urged, gripping my shoulder. Show them your files, the timestamps, everything. I scoffed. You think they'll believe me over Rachel? Dad's probably already writing her victory speech. Before Olivia could respond, Jake appeared in the doorway. He was usually calm, steady, but now, his face was tight with concern. Emma, I just heard. This is serious. I nodded numbly. Jake hesitated before stepping inside. The demonstration is in 3 weeks. That made me pause. Rachel might have stolen my research. But she couldn't steal my knowledge. She had the data, but she didn't understand it. And the award committee required winners to demonstrate their research live in front of the entire scientific community. Olivia's eyes widened as the realization hit her too. That's where she'll fall. I stood up abruptly, energy surging through me. She'll have to explain every reaction, every process. And when she can't, Jake nodded. The media will be there. It's quite the spectacle. I swallowed, my mind racing. Then that's where the truth will come out. Olivia hesitated. Emma, are you sure? This isn't about revenge, right? I met her gaze. No, it's about truth. Science is built on integrity. And I won't let Rachel mock that. That evening, I walked into my parents' house. The familiar scent of Mom's homemade lasagna thick in the air. But instead of comfort, it only made my stomach churn. Rachel was already in the living room, surrounded by our parents and a few relatives, basking in their praise. The moment she saw me, she beamed and pulled me into a hug. Little sis, she chirped. Can you believe it? All those hours in the lab finally paid off. It took everything in me not to recoil. Instead, I forced a tight smile. Congratulations. The demonstration should be interesting. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear? Doubt? It was gone as quickly as it had appeared. Oh, I can't wait to show everyone, she said breezily. Turning to Dad, did I tell you about the organic compound matrix? I flinched as she launched into an explanation so painfully inaccurate it made my skin crawl. But Dad beamed with pride. And Mom snapped photo after photo. Likely for social media. To Rachel, Dad said, raising his glass. Following in my footsteps in the scientific community. I always knew you had it in you. Something inside me snapped. Really? I said before I could stop myself. I thought you said Rachel barely passed her chemistry classes in college. The room fell silent. Rachel's smile faltered. Emma, Mom scolded. Don't be jealous. This is your sister's moment. Yeah, Emma, Rachel added. Her voice sugary sweet but her eyes sharp as glass. We can't all be winners. I stood abruptly. I need some air. Outside, the cool evening air did little to steady my pulse. I leaned against the porch railing. Taking slow, deep breaths. My phone buzzed again. A message from Jake. Committee head Sadie Marks wants to meet with Rachel tomorrow to discuss technical details. Thought you should know. A small smile played on my lips. Rachel might have stolen my research. But she couldn't steal 3 years of knowledge. The demonstration would be her undoing. And I wouldn't have to say a word. The next morning, I couldn't escape Rachel's face. It was everywhere, on the New York Times. On scientific blogs. Even on Columbia University's homepage. Each headline felt like a fresh slap. Local scientist makes breakthrough. Rachel Donovan revolutionizes solar energy storage. I clenched my jaw as Olivia scrolled through the news articles in our lab. Turn that off before I throw something. I muttered, rubbing my temples. Wait, Olivia said, her eyes narrowing as she skimmed the comment section. Look at this. Some people are asking questions. Pretty technical ones. Ones Rachel can't possibly answer. I leaned over her shoulder. She was right. Among the usual praise and excitement, a few sharp-eyed researchers were beginning to poke holes in her claims. How does this method improve stability over existing lithium-ion storage? One comment read. Could Rachel elaborate on the molecular interactions that make this work? Asked another. A loud crash from the adjacent lab interrupted us. Olivia and I exchanged a glance before rushing over. Inside, we found Jake standing over a shattered beaker. Clear liquid spreading across the floor. He ran a hand through his hair. Looking distracted. Sorry, he muttered. Just met with Rachel and Sadie. It was interesting. Spill it, I demanded, handing him paper towels. How bad was she? Jake sighed, kneeling to clean up the mess. Let's just say Sadie's eyebrows nearly disappeared into her hairline when Rachel couldn't explain basic molecular binding principles. Olivia smirked. Classic Rachel. She's been doing that since we were kids. Remember 8th grade? The science fair? The solar-powered water purifier? I laughed bitterly. And Dad was so proud of her. History repeats itself. Before Jake could respond, the lab door burst open. Rachel strode in, wearing a pristine lab coat that still had its creases from the store. Baby sis, she trilled, her voice honeyed. I need your help. I folded my arms. Oh? And what exactly do you need help with? These reporters keep asking such specific questions. She said, her tone light but her eyes sharp. Maybe you could explain some things to me. You know, sister to sister. I stared at her carefully crafted expression, the concern in her eyes. The perfectly manicured nails tapping impatiently on the counter. You want me to help you understand my research? I said slowly, so you can better pretend it's yours. Rachel's face hardened for a fraction of a second before she masked it with a bright smile. Don't be difficult, Emma, she said, her voice smooth. This is good for the whole family. Dad's already gotten calls from major research facilities. Anger flared in my chest. Get out, I said quietly. Rachel blinked. What? Get out of my lab. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Listen here, little sister. No one would believe you anyway. I have the presentation files. The data, everything. Who are they going to trust? The award winner or the jealous sister? Before I could respond, a voice interrupted us. Is everything okay? Sella, a biochemist from the neighboring lab, had poked her head in, eyes darting between us. Rachel instantly turned on the charm. Perfect, she chirped. Just getting some sisterly advice for the demonstration. You'll all be there, right? She turned on her heel and walked out, leaving behind a trail of expensive perfume and unspoken threats. As soon as she was gone, Olivia grabbed my arm. Please tell me you're not just going to let her get away with this. I took a slow breath and walked to my computer, pulling up a file. Remember that accident with the organic compound matrix last month? I asked. Jake leaned in. The one that nearly blew up the lab? I nodded. Rachel has my successful trials. But she doesn't know about the failures. About what happens if you don't adjust the pH levels exactly right. Olivia paled. Emma, if you're thinking what I think you're thinking, I'm not going to do anything. I interrupted. I'm just going to let Rachel do what she does best, show off. A slow realization dawned on Olivia's face. Without understanding the consequences, she whispered. I sat back in my chair, watching the flickering computer screen. Exactly. Rachel's arrogance had always been her greatest strength, and her greatest weakness. She thrived in front of an audience, spinning stories with effortless ease, making people believe in her confidence, even when she had no idea what she was talking about. But confidence alone couldn't change the laws of chemistry. 10 days before the demonstration, the whispers started. At first, they were quiet, subtle exchanges between researchers in the hallways, curious glances as Rachel passed. But soon, they became impossible to ignore. Did you hear? Jake cornered me by the coffee machine one afternoon. Rachel completely bombed her preliminary review meeting. She couldn't explain basic principles of her own supposed research. Her research? Sella scoffed, appearing behind him with a raised brow. That's interesting because I distinctly remember Emma explaining those exact processes months ago. I took a slow sip of my coffee. I'm sure Rachel has an explanation. Jake smirked. Oh, she had several. None of them made sense. The lab door burst open, and Rachel stormed in. Her mascara was smeared, her usual perfect composure replaced with a raw, desperate energy. Emma, we need to talk. Now. I followed her into the supply closet, where she immediately broke down, her shoulders shaking. They're all looking at me like I'm stupid. She choked out. Sadie keeps asking these impossible questions. And everyone's whispering. And Dad's invited the entire department to the demonstration. If I fail, I'll humiliate myself. I'll humiliate him. I crossed my arms. They're not impossible questions, Rachel. They're basic concepts. Concepts that anyone who actually did this research would understand. She grabbed my arm. Please, just help me understand enough to get through the demonstration. I'll tell everyone you helped with the research. I let out a slow breath, studying her face. For the first time, I saw something beyond her usual bravado, fear. Yes, but something deeper, too. A sense of loss, of drowning. Helped? I repeated. Rachel, it's my research. Every bit of it. And you know what's funny? If you'd asked, I probably would have collaborated with you. She closed her eyes, exhaling shakily. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. She whispered. Dad's always bragging about his brilliant younger daughter, the real scientist. Do you know how that feels? I felt something sharp twist in my chest. About as good as watching someone else take credit for your life's work. I imagine. A knock on the door interrupted us. Rachel? Sadie's voice. We need to discuss some discrepancies in your methodology. Rachel's face went white. I slipped past her, leaving her frozen in the supply closet. As I walked back to the lab, I caught snippets of Sadie's words. Fundamental inconsistencies in your understanding. We cannot proceed without clear explanations. Integrity of the award at stake. Olivia was waiting for me in the lab, organizing samples. You're looking particularly smug today, she observed. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Dad. The truth has a way of surfacing. I murmured. Right on cue. The lab door opened again, this time. It was Dad. He looked older. The usual confidence in his posture was replaced with something almost hesitant. Emma, he started, his voice tight. Why aren't you helping your sister? I blinked. Helping her? You mean the sister who stole my research? His jaw clenched. She's falling apart. Emma, no excuses. This is a family moment. Rachel needs us. Something inside me snapped. She's under so much pressure because she stole my work. I said, my voice sharp. Dad flinched, like I had physically struck him. That's ridiculous, he muttered. Rachel would never. Check the timestamps. I cut in. Check my lab records. Check the security footage from the night she supposedly made her breakthrough. She's never even run these experiments. Dad opened his mouth, then closed it. You're just jealous, he said, but his voice wavered. I laughed bitterly. Right. Because Rachel has always been the smart one. Right? The scientist. The one who spent years in a lab. Missing holidays. Losing sleep. Working for something real? Silence. Dad took a shaky breath. I need to. He stopped. Looking lost for the first time in my life. I should. Then he turned and walked out. I watched him go, something heavy settling in my chest. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake. Rachel just ran out of her meeting with Sadie. Crying. The committee is calling an emergency session. You okay? Olivia asked softly. I exhaled, shaking my head. No. But it was too late to stop this now. The rest of the day passed in a blur of whispers and sidelong glances. Rachel didn't return to the lab. Dad didn't call again. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt something close to relief. That evening, I found a single email in my inbox. From Sadie Marks. Subject: We should talk. Body: About your research. The original research. I barely had time to process the weight of that message before my door buzzer rang. When I opened it, Mom stood there, looking tired in a way I'd never seen before. Rachel told me everything, she said quietly. I waited, my heart pounding. But she didn't try to excuse her. She's not well, Emma. She's unraveling. The demonstration is in 9 days. And she's not ready. Because she didn't do the research. I finished. Mom swallowed, looking away. Can't you help her? For the family? I let out a sharp breath, stepping aside so she could see inside my apartment, the piles of research notes. The late-night coffee cups. The 3 years of work Rachel had stolen with the click of a USB drive. No, Mom, I said. Not this time. She left without another word. My phone buzzed again, this time. From an unknown number. This is Sadie. Committee meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Your presence is required. I forwarded the message to Olivia, who responded immediately. The house of cards is falling. The committee room was colder than usual the next morning. Sadie sat at the head of a long table, flanked by 4 stern-faced members. Rachel slumped in her chair, her eyes red-rimmed. I took my seat quietly, noting the stack of papers in front of Sadie. Let's begin, Sadie said, adjusting her glasses. Rachel, please explain the molecular binding process in your energy storage system. Rachel's voice quivered. Well, the molecules, they bind together. Specifically, walk us through the exact chemical reaction. Sadie interrupted. Rachel swallowed. I'm just nervous. Emma, maybe you could. No. Sadie cut in sharply. We need to hear this from you. The silence stretched painfully. I watched my sister crumble under the weight of her lies, remembering all the times she had stolen my spotlight with her easy charm and quick deflections. Not today. A committee member cleared their throat. Perhaps you could explain why the catalyst needs precise pH levels? Rachel shuffled her papers, her fingers shaking. The pH levels are important because... She hesitated. Because... The door burst open. Dad strode in, looking like he hadn't slept. I demand to know what's going on here, he announced. My daughter is being harassed. Sadie didn't flinch. Mr. Donovan, this is a closed meeting. Dad ignored her. I've been reviewing Emma's lab records, he continued, his voice raw. And Rachel's supposed breakthrough timeline doesn't add up. Rachel's head snapped up. Daddy, please. When exactly did you develop this research? Rachel? His voice cracked. Because according to the lab logs, you've barely spent 10 hours total in any research facility this year. Rachel paled. I worked from home. With what equipment? I finally spoke. The specialized catalysts? The molecular spectrometer? The temperature-controlled environment chamber? Enough. Sadie interrupted. Rachel, we've reviewed the security footage from the nights you claimed to be working. We've examined your badge access records. We've compared your methodology documents with previously submitted research papers. She paused, each word landing like a hammer. Would you like to explain the remarkable similarities we found with your sister's work? Rachel burst into tears. Everyone expected so much. And Emma makes it look so easy. Easy? I stood up, anger finally breaking through. I spent 3 years developing this research. 3 years of failed experiments. Missed family events. Sleepless nights. You think it was easy? Rachel wiped her eyes, her voice shaking. You always were Dad's favorite. The perfect little scientist. The one who made him proud. That's not true, Dad said quietly. Rachel let out a bitter laugh. It is true. While you bragged about Emma's scientific achievements, I was just the debate team girl. The social butterfly. Never the brilliant one. Rachel, Dad started, but she shook her head. Sadie cleared her throat. Regardless of personal grievances, the facts remain. The Horizon Award is officially rescinded. The demonstration is cancelled. A public statement will be issued. Rachel let out a soft sob. Please, she whispered. You can't. You should have thought about that before stealing my research. I muttered. Dad turned to Sadie. Is there any way to handle this quietly? Sadie shook her head. Science is built on integrity. Mr. Donovan, this isn't just about family reputation. It's about maintaining the credibility of our entire scientific community. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Questions arise about Horizon Award winners' research credentials. It had already begun. Rachel slumped in her chair. Defeated. I never meant. I just wanted to be seen. She whispered. Dad swallowed hard. Oh, Rachel, why didn't you just tell me? Rachel lifted her tear-filled eyes. Would you have listened? Really listened? Or would you have nodded and asked about Emma's latest experiment? The truth of her words hung heavy in the air. Sadie turned to me. Miss Donovan, the committee will need your formal statement as the original researcher. I nodded, watching as Rachel gathered her things with trembling hands. Dad looked lost, standing between his daughters, unable to fix this with his usual charm. Rachel paused at the door. Emma, she hesitated. I am sorry, not for getting caught, but for everything, for all the times I couldn't just let you shine. I turned away. Save it. But as she left, I caught Dad's eyes. The pain there matched my own. Sadie cleared her throat. Now, shall we discuss your research properly? Emma? I sat down, straightening my papers. Through the window, I could see Rachel and Dad walking across the campus. Their shoulders bent, no longer the perfect father-daughter duo they pretended to be. Sometimes, victory tasted more like ashes than champagne. The news spread faster than I had expected. By evening, every major scientific journal had picked up the story. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. Messages from colleagues, and emails from people I hadn't heard from in years. You're trending on Twitter, Olivia announced, sprawled on my lab couch. Hashtags, science fraud, and sibling scandal, are blowing up. I groaned. Great. Just what I always wanted, to go viral for family drama. Jake burst in, holding his tablet. Have you seen the latest? My stomach dropped. What now? Rachel gave an interview. I braced myself, expecting another round of damage control. But Jake shook his head. She admitted everything. She says she's seeking therapy for her competitive issues and apologizes for undermining the trust of the scientific community. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. A moment later, Dad appeared at the door, looking hesitant. Can we talk? I nodded. Olivia and Jake exchanged glances and left us alone. Emma, I've been thinking about what Rachel said, about favoritism, about not listening. He sighed. I was so proud of your love for science. But I didn't realize how much Rachel needed me to see her. Too. For the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. It's not too late, I said, but she needs to find her own path. Not mine. A few weeks later, I stood on stage, presenting my research, the right way. In my own name. In the front row, Rachel sat beside Mom and Dad. Watching. Maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something new. Subscribe to Life Stories for more incredible real-life experiences.